This Chop and Brew Lanyap video is brought to you with support from Imperial Yeast. Want to treat your beer like royalty? Imperial Yeast has gotcha. How did they brew it with Dawson? How'd they do that anyway? What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Chop and Brew. This is a little mini video. Don has now messed up the perfectly centered can. Oh, you did a good job, almost. We're drinking the last canned batch of Saint Arnold Weedwacker. They discontinued this brand, according to the bottom, which is July 17th. It's got a little age on it, but this was the last batch that they did. So I wanted to bring in Michael Dawson, because when you have a beer with Michael Dawson and ask him how he thinks it got made, it's usually pretty mind-blowing. Granted, we're trying to recreate a session that happened over the summer in my backyard.
I don't remember what I said.
Where he reverse engineered this. So I love to do this with Mike when we get together. So this is, they call it a Hefeweizen, sort of. Beer is brewed with just pale malted barley, dash of malted wheat. Import the world's best pills and wheat malt. Hops, we use a single hop variety in this beer, Hallertau Hersbrucker, 4 separate editions. They don't talk about the yeast, which is where I think the sort of and the spotlight of this beer is. So,
totally.
How did they brew it? This is a new segment. How did they brew it with Dawson? How'd they do that anyway?
Man, I love the jingle.
Okay, there we go.
So I really don't remember what we said, but I know we talked about this extensively in your backyard a few months ago when I didn't have to wear a stocking cap outside.
Right.
So do you remember we talked about the yeast, like you said, because that's kind of like the center pin of the whole beer.
Because it's not quite like a hef. It's not as spicy as a hef. No,
not at all. You got just a hint of cloves and some banana, but not front and center, right? So my thought was to use something like the Yeast 3333 to get a really toned down, muted Hefeweizen expression. Little German ale character mixed in.
Is that kind of what it is? Is it a hybrid of hef and Kolsch or something?
Yeah. And so I think that would be ideal for this kind of beer. And then imported pills and wheat malt, they say, right? So
probably Weirmann.
Yeah, some German Pils malt with, what do you think, 15% wheat? It's not. I know this can
would be more than that if they were saying putting the word Hefeweizen on there.
Would that YE strain in particular be flocculent or not? Because I'm thinking at 15% I'd expect it cloudier, but not if it also drops.
Mine's a little cloudier.
I don't remember off the top of my head. I think it's
and I didn't get
more flocculent.
I didn't get very much.
That's what you get for
being last,
getting us crackers, and
I'm sorry, done the party.
Terrible.
No, I agree. I think 15%. Hersbrucker must be 60, 30, 15.
Is it somewhat hoppy? Do you think?
It was hoppier. I remember.
I kind of am feeling like it has a little more hop character than a typical straight up Hefeweizen might.
Canned on July 17th. So this
4
is
months.
a good 4 months at this point.
It's been cold the whole time though.
Stuff will settle, right?
Yeah.
That's
true.
We'll have some IBU attrition, so maybe it's a little cloudier, fresher.
Yeah.
You could speak better to that. If so, then
I see what you're saying. It's been cold for 3 months at my house, so it's just solidified.
Yeah, and
but it's you said Crystal Weizen, which I kind of thought was it's not as crystal as the Crystal Weizen, but it's definitely that less chewy version of a hef.
Yep. Yeah, and they do say Pils malt with a dash of malted wheat.
Oh,
which is why I don't think it's regular Hefeweizen levels. You know,
so we're thinking almost Kolsch bumped up a little towards hef. But with this hybrid yeast to kind of do the spicing. Like
a Kolsch with multiple Hersbrucker additions throughout the boil. I don't think it's dry hopped. You guys, and not that at 4 months wouldn't get much out of that, but I think my guess is they'd be boil additions and
Trivia. Several years ago at the Oldery, which must be the old brewery, we had some extra lawnmower wort, which is, I believe, a Kolsch, that wouldn't fit in the fermenter, and we had some Bavarian Hefeweizen yeast on hand. So we combined them in one of our small yeast bright tanks for the fun. We didn't release it, but we did drink a lot of it ourselves. That led us to the movable yeast concept, and Weedwacker was the first release in this series. Damn, I should not have started this video, because now I want to know more about all of that to be able to report it. But that's awesome. Movable yeast concept.
Maybe,
so now we gotta go to
maybe
Houston.
Instead of that jingle, like this is more like an X-Files segment of Chop and Brew. The brew is out there.
Brew is out there.
No.
Movable yeast concept. Now we gotta look into that. So I think they pretty much just acknowledged that yes, it's a Kolsch beer that then got racked with some Hefeweizen.
And we didn't even read that far down on the webpage.
You're just that good.
Wow.
You've been developing recipes since like 1982.
Or maybe I'm psychic.
Scully, Muller, to the brewery.
Nerds.
Well, come next summer when we need a beer like this, we might try to reverse engineer this in
I think
person.
that's a worthy project.
But for now, this has been How'd They Brew That? With Michael Dawson. Alright, man. Peace / rest in peace, Weedwacker. You are an amazing beer. This was awesome to drink at like 100 degrees in Texas back in September, which is when I bought it. So, cheers, man. Reverse engineer them shiz.
Cut it out.
Ding. Now let's drink this crazy pink stuff.
Milkshake IPA.
Ah, yes. Very nice.